You want to see somebody tired? Take a look at a local mayor. It's got to figure out how to get you through the local roads. You know, it's so funny. Welcome into My State of Mind. I am Dan York. I just pre-taped tomorrow night's show with URI head coach Dan Hurley, who looks exhausted from having to bust down to Fordham in New York, win a game, and come back because they couldn't use their regular travel schedule because of the snow. Everyone I run into is exhausted from the snow, whether they're working here at Channel 1264 Meyer ITV studios, WPRO radio, or anybody else, and everyone's ornery. The phones are ripping off the hook with people who are complaining about their road conditions. Everyone just needs a good long nap or a good stiff drink or just a vision that spring is coming. Joe Polisena is my guest, one of my favorite politician leaders out there in the community because he doesn't mince any words. He tells you what he thinks, and he's running a town pretty damn efficiently. We'll find out. I actually scheduled Joe because I told you in the last few shows I want to bring the mayors in to talk about the big picture, but right now the big picture just seems to be, you know, getting rid of it. Let's hustle to the rundown real quick and talk about the sidewalk stress and a couple other things like a big 9/11 ripoff. That would be 911. That would be emergency, not 11, not the date. Opening arguments in a trial that is spooky, you know, given the week that it actually is. And yeah, these are getting to be very strange talks on hostage situations and, you know, hunkering down. I'll explain. Let's dig in real quick. Yeah, the sidewalk stress is significant. The more urban the environment, the more difficult it is to remove snow. I think you got that figured out, but a lot of you have forgotten that. The headline in the Providence Journal, you know, working to clear the streets, and Jorge Alorza, the mayor, of course, talked to Eyewitness News about it.
Please do everything you can to have those sidewalks clear, to have them plowed so that kids and pedestrians can use the sidewalks to get to and from school, work, and for all of their other needs.
Interesting about this is that this is a dual responsibility. We've really started to think that government is the answer to everything and that they should do everything for us. You know, we don't want anybody hurting themselves or getting a heart attack, so let's be smart about this. But I would suggest to you that being a mayor, size of the city of Providence, and maybe even Joe will agree with this when he comes on here in a few minutes, is more difficult than the governor's job, which we have to give her credit for, the right tone, the right leadership. That's the macro picture. But when you're responsible for making sure specific streets are clear, it's the post-game, not so, it's not so dramatic. It's just the dirty work. Think about that. Be patient, be patient. All right, 911 ripoff. This is something I've been dying to get to. The Hummel Report, hummelreport.org, shows us that there is some $20 million coming in to the state coffers from our $1 charge on landlines and $1.26 charge per cell line for a specific 911 emergency. But it's only being funded at $5 million and change, which means that they're under capacity, and sometimes you got to wait. The colonel of the state police that runs the whole shop talked to Jim.
And there's an expectation if you call 911, you're not put on hold. If you have a call for, say, a serious motor vehicle accident, you may get 25 calls. And so the volume of calls, if you have 6 telecommunicators, is just the way it works.
10 years ago, they had more than 40 telecommunicators taking calls down there. Did you know that?
I do.
And so now we're down 10 or 11. How does that happen?
Well, it's the consistent doing more with less across the board statewide. It really has nothing to do with public safety. Every year, since I've been the colonel and even as a lieutenant colonel, we prepare budgets. And some way you got to cut.
Listen, I think the superintendent of the state police is a phenomenal public servant, but a little bit too diplomatic there. I'd like to see some more advocacy. This is a dedicated revenue stream that no longer is dedicated, and it's a ripoff. And House Speaker Nick Mattiello is clueless about it.
We will consider their budget request in this legislative session, and we'll make sure that it's appropriately funded. And that'll be a collaboration between public safety and our finance committee.
If it was originally intended for 911, should the state be charging people for something that the money's really going somewhere else?
We're not going to build a 911 system that's bigger than it needs to be, that's inefficient or inappropriate.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. First of all, it's like two people having two different conversations. No one's asking for an overly inappropriate, overbuilt 911 system. We're asking for the number of people that need to be behind those chairs and computers and phones to be there. And by the way, we're overfunding it by $15 million, Speaker. Get in the ball game. And Governor Raimondo, it ought to be your first move. Other states have, screwed around with this money too. It ought to be a class action lawsuit. We're paying for a specific service. Let's get it now, or cut the rate. Oh my God. Opening arguments. Yes, WPR.com tells us that Mr. Hernandez finally is on trial after some jury messing around this morning. One got to leave, one had to come. Eyewitness News took a peek.
An indictment is not evidence of anything. You must not draw any inference of guilt from the indictments or the fact that the defendant has been charged with a crime. The Commonwealth has to prove each essential element of each separate charge against the defendant, and the Commonwealth has to prove the guilt of the defendant beyond a reasonable doubt.
If you've never been to a trial, you should. It would be a civic learning lesson for you, but isn't this just kind of weird, the timing? That it finally came together and the trial began 3 days before the Super Bowl with the team that he left, wondering who he was, preparing to win it. Very strange Patriots news cycle, don't you think? Speaking of strange, you might think it's strange that Jordan is negotiating for its pilot with ISIS. The headline here from CNN, fate of ISIS captives up in the air as night falls in the Middle East. Yes, at press time when we recorded the show, we still didn't know how this thing was going to come out. CBS had a little bit on it for us.
An ISIS deadline for Jordan to release an Iraqi woman it has in prison in exchange for the life of a Jordanian pilot has come and gone.
The Jordanian pilot, Muaz al-Kasasba, will be killed immediately.
The ultimatum was delivered in an audio message read by another ISIS hostage, Japanese journalist Kenji Goto. Jordan's government is ready to bargain if its pilot is still alive.
Jordan requested a proof of life for the life of the Jordanian pilot, and we have not received that yet.
Here's the good news. ISIS is running out of hostages, so they're going to have to change their tactic. That's number one. Number two, if you're uncomfortable, like I've said earlier this week, with the idea that the Jordanians are negotiating, just remember that this began in the Rose Garden at the White House for Sergeant Bergdahl with 5 Taliban members. And the guy that started that is known as the President of the United States of America. We'll watch the play-by-play and pray for the pilot. Last thought here, at least for the rundown, we're hunkering down. No more media. Pro-Joe headline, they're focused. I got to make a prediction. I can't. It's too close. Kev, what do you think?
Patriots by 3.
Patriots by 3, says our director who wears a Patriots shirt to work every day. No credibility whatsoever. It's going to be a dandy, no doubt. It's nice that they're done with the media. Just get on with the business of the ball game. Your state of mind is important to me. 228-1886 is the number to dial. Oh, my goodness. Email, Facebook posts. They're still talking about Sean Daly's visit here from the other night.
It was an exciting time for me to look at the news just to hear Sean Daly. He brought an excitement to the news for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.
He would really appreciate that, Joan. We'll hear more from Sean, I'm sure. Retired after 42 years. If you missed the show, we had a great conversation with him from Tuesday nights airing on foxprovidence.com. You can find every show if you miss one. And don't miss one. Joe Polisena next, Mayor of Johnston. A lot of work out there. Yes, how many more visuals do you need to see of snow and more snow and the beautiful sign of Johnston, which is what I've always called the center of the Rhode Island universe, because it is. And the snow, You all right?
Yeah, we're doing okay.
It's exhausting, isn't it?
It was. We started early Monday. We tested all our generators. We made sure our fuel tanks had fuel, a big, distribution area where we distribute diesel and gas. And we waited for it, and it came, and it came, and it came. So it was really weird with me. Tuesday, actually Monday into Tuesday morning, when the height of the storm, I was driving in a Humvee. We have military Humvees. And your depth perception is so difficult driving. I was going to pick up my chief of staff, and I could put a blindfold on and know where a street was. I couldn't find a street. It was weird. It was very strange. But it was, my Department of Public Works men, because all we have is men, did a phenomenal job. They really did. They were out there. They got ahead of it. They didn't stop. We have 15 vehicles, town vehicles we had on the road, and we brought in another 18. So we had 33 vehicles. And as I said, it was the men of the Department of Public Works in Johnston who really got people safe. We put on extra policemen, extra firemen.
I said earlier this week that the governor, I'm not the only one, of course, the governor struck the right chord. I think there was a perfect storm if we're going to have a bad one, right? Because timing Monday night into all day Tuesday, people were well prepared, they stayed home, and they heeded the travel ban. And she was saying that mayors are saying, please keep it on so we can get the job done. Is that true?
That's true. And I have to tell you, she was baptized by fire, Gina Ramon. She did a phenomenal job. I got to give her a lot of credit. She did keep in touch with us. I mean, the Monday she called me like 3 different times. Tuesday, I got 2 phone calls, a text from her, and she was really good, I have to tell you. And we did ask her to keep the travel ban a little later because it would help us. And it proved by keeping the vehicles off the road, we were able to get the roads done. Because obviously when they're on the roads, they're driving, they're kind of patting down the snow, making it firm. But we pre-treated our roads on Monday.
You're a student of politics.
Mm-hmm.
You supported Clay Pell.
That's correct. That's correct.
We don't have to relive that nightmare, in my judgment.
Okay.
But what's interesting about a storm like this is that it's apolitical.
That's correct.
And it gives you a chance to establish kind of a leadership tone. A bad storm is a good political break if you handle it well and if everything falls into place. Yes?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think Governor Raimondo had the right people, but she made the decision. I mean, she was firm. Some people, I mean, I've listened to your radio station a lot, and some people criticized her for being, well, she was militant. But you have to be. I mean, it's about public safety. Someone asked me today, how much did the storm cost Johnson? About $100,000. But you know what? Nobody died. So what's a human life worth? So no one died, thank God. I think people were safe. And I think she did a good job. As I said, she stepped up to the plate, and she's a tough lady.
But let me allow you to beat your chest from your at least platform a little bit, because I said on the radio today and in the monologue, in the rundown, that the job of mayor, Providence, even Johnston, might be more difficult in the sense that she's got the macro position. Correct. She did a good job. She's got all the heads of state and everybody on a big basis. Highways are easier to clear than the nooks and crannies. You have an accountability down to the pedestrian level.
Absolutely.
And you will be judged. Your mayoralty will be judged on a snowstorm from beginning to end. Yes?
Absolutely. I mean, I'll be honest with you. This morning when I woke up, I get up every morning at 3:30, 3:45. I work out on a machine. You never know it, but I do.
Regularly?
Every day.
Every day?
7 days a week. And I was out this morning early just checking all the bus routes, making sure, because I was concerned about the children. There is not miles, but pile-high snow on the sides, the bus stops where the children normally sit there and wait for the bus, not there anymore. So I was concerned. I wanted to make sure none of our children were injured, and none of them were, thank God, and it worked out well. Our Department of Public Works widened the areas. Today they were going back, trying to take some of the mounds down. And it's very difficult. We're getting a lot of heat about shoveling the sidewalks. That's very difficult to do because...
I saw on the paper, you're not going to ticket anybody.
No, we're not. I mean, plus, being a former registered nurse, you can have a 50-year-old, a 40-year-old healthy person out there shoveling and have a massive heart attack. I don't want that on my watch. Now, if they want to clean, if they have a snow blower or a tractor and they want to clean, that's fine, but we don't enforce that. I got an email from RIPTA asking, kind of telling me that I should be doing the bus stops that are on the state roads. You know what? We got cut $5 million. I lost about 30 people through attrition.
Well, you're a rebel, man.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, you say, listen, the whole street, like highway light
We're still not paying.
You're still not paying that bill.
Winding through the
You're telling RIPTA, go to heck.
Well,
You kind of march to your own tune. Maybe that's why you got elected again.
Well,
again, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. You know what? I try to tell the truth, and in this business, if you're politically correct, you're destroyed before you even start. And I'm not politically correct. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not a wise guy. But I tell the truth. I'll bend over backwards to help somebody But when I see that my community is being taken advantage of, obviously I'll step forward and step to the plate. But as I said, it's not about being a rebel, but I'm not going to go to all the bus stops that RIPTA has, because RIPTA didn't get cut $5 million from a couple of governors ago. Johnston did. So that's up to RIPTA if they want to clean their bus stops, not up to me.
All right. Big picture as it pertains to Johnston, municipalities, the new dawn, new government, next. Yes, there was the first big day. Ralph Mollis's almost last formal function as he bid adieu to public life, and there was Governor Raimondo. Not to make it all about her, but there's a lot of focus on Governor these days. We all know the General Assembly is actually the real power play, and Nick Mattiello and Teresa Paiva-Weed, the respective heads of those chambers. But what's your outlook running Johnston now that we've got a new administration? Are you bullish on the next year or two?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm very impressed with the Nick Mattiello, because I think he gets it. He understands where the cities and towns come from.
You didn't get that 911 thing, by the way. By the way, as a first responder type yourself, isn't that ridiculous?
I was on the 911 committee when I was a senator, so I agree with you 100%. But that's been done over the years. That just didn't happen over the past 5 years. That started off in the governor's Sunland administration, where they would take money out of the budget and kind of use it for the state. And it was a way of grabbing money, and it's been there for years. So it's not just this group of elected officials like the Speaker and the Senate
Good point.
President.
But if you tell me you want a 911 surcharge, that'll go to 911.
Oh, correct. I mean, when I was on the committee,
at least fully fund the operation of 911. You want to skim it? I might be able to live with that, but fund it so no one has to wait.
You're right, and I got to tell you, at one time they didn't have enough chairs to sit in, and I said, "Come on, all of this money." Then because I was an advocate.
Anyway, your relationship to the big picture of Rhode Island government from a mayoral perspective will be what for 2015?
Well, we're going to look to ensure that we don't get any more mandates thrown at us. You know, the big issue is the car tax. I know that, but if they change the car tax, as long as they tell us where we can get the revenue from. So I know that one of the plans is to do the retail value. That's a whole nother show, by the way. We'll lose about $2.5 million. Providence loses $8 million. So we're asking, where do we make that up? And I don't have $2 million to cut in my budget, to be honest with you, because we've endured the Kacheri years, and he really did a number on the cities and towns. And, you know, like I said before, you can't find this guy with a search warrant.
Well,
really.
He expected, well, what would you want from him anyway? He's done. I mean, he's got no equity. No former governor has equity anyway.
Or credibility. You got 38 studios, but what's worse than 38 studios is people don't realize, when he cut the general revenue sharing, then he put the car tax, he's the one put the car tax back on the cities and towns.
No, he's the one to let the General Assembly to do it. He suggested in his budget, if we're going to be mutually accurate about conversations. And I'm not here to defend him, because I admonished him when he did it. His thought was, I'm going to put the same kind of pressure on the local cities and towns that I'm putting on the state budget. I kept telling him there are less movable objects in a local community than there is in the state, and this will come back to haunt us, and it has.
And we begged them to help us get rid of some of the mandates, which could have balanced out. And basically, as my grandmother used to say, or signal.
Can you do that on TV? You just did.
That means forget about it. Well, my grandmother used to do it to me all the time, and she was a great...
Well, look, you're right. The car tax is a whole other conversation. We've had it a million times here. I would like us to simply adopt the Massachusetts formula in totality with the same kind of caps on property taxes, the same kind of, fixed put. Every community is taxed at the same rate so that you're not having to charge people more than the town next door, and the other one's doing better than you. And Providence, you can't even afford to have a car.
But where do you make up the revenue?
Mess. You make it up by rearranging the formula. Unfortunately, we're always crying about a systemic debt problem at the state, and now we know that got to go blah 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 blah.
Correct. But I foresee. I think too. The mayors finally have a voice in Dan McKee. Lieutenant Governor McKee was a mayor of Cumberland. He has stayed in our group, so to speak. We have a group of mayors, managers, and town administrators, and having him there is like me having a voice there, as well as the other 38 cities.
It's really important that you say that. Now, look, disclosure. Everyone knows that he's a buddy of mine, and I've rocked him when I think he's a little bit too left of center. But he's a practical guy. He's a competent guy. He wants to make that office more important, and his growth from the very important level of mayoralty, which all of you guys, you, Lombardi, Tavares, Abadesian, Fung, down, all around the state.
Absolutely.
Almond and Lincoln as a minister. You guys have made that mezzanine level of government really important. He comes from it, and his promise is to make it really important continually. So now you think Lieutenant Governor matters because he came from you guys,
Absolutely.
right?
We have a voice. He was a mayor. See, when I say he came from us, he was a mayor. It's the same thing. You know, a lot of people weren't, you know, too keen on Governor Chafee, but Governor Chafee was a former mayor, and he understood what we went through. Obviously, when he took over, we had already been devastated with cuts. So he tried to help. He expedited the funding formula, and that was done through Dan McKee also. And, you know, and listen, I know you've taken on Dan McKee. Dan McKee and I are this far apart on charter schools. I'm not a charter school supporter, but Dan McKee is...
And I think it's the best thing he's done. So there you go.
Listen...
But overall, great advocate.
He's a great guy, and he's for the state. He wants to make sure all 39 cities and towns survive. You know, like I said in my speech, my inauguration speech, and the governor was there, I said, you know, Governor, if you fail, we all fail. So we want to make sure that she succeeds. And I think she will, but hopefully, and she's so far so good, you got to get some input from us. And, you know, there's other issues out there. She wants to create a lot of jobs. Get rid of the bureaucracy at certain divisions like DEM and other.
I only got a few seconds, but good job on the athletic fields.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
It's a source of pride for the people in Johnston.
Absolutely.
You took some money from the devastation over at the landfill. And
from Smellsville, yes. Yes, we did well.
Come back often.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you didn't wear a tie. It was more comfortable.
I'm sorry.
Mayor Polisena.
Well, that's why I know who I am.
This is really shocking.
Well, this is a $250 sweatshirt because I sponsored a team, so it's an expensive sweatshirt.
Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back. One more thought. Joe Polisena is one of the refreshing public servants, no doubt. Speaking of refreshing, the head coach of the URI men's basketball team, Dan Hurley, will be my guest tomorrow. And because we recorded the program today for tomorrow, I know exactly what he said. And so, if you're interested in knowing, as a basketball fan, how long this guy is going to stick around, you're actually going to get the date, at least specific to the career. A fascinating conversation with the head coach. They've got a big game coming up Saturday, 4 o'clock at George Washington, but you'll hear about it tomorrow. Good night.